It's 3 Tip Tuesday, folks, and I'm coming back with 3 tips for digital media marketers, so stay tuned. Look at us up on Doc Rio TV. You know what time it is, folks. It's time for more Doc Rio TV for digital media marketers. And this time I'm coming with something that my plosives are popping here. Something that is a little bit different here. Let's adjust this microphone. That's one thing I like about this microphone. I can adjust it and you really can't hear as much when I adjust it. You know what I mean? See, I'm moving it around right now, but you really can't hear me moving it. That's one great thing I love about this setup. So even though I really don't like the stand, I'm going to get me a Rode one because I like the Rodes. I've used them in the studio before, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not even set up for this one. I just actually jumped right here live on the air. Saw I had the lighting right, saw I had the sound right, saw I had everything right, saw I was sitting in the right position, and I just felt good. So I said, let me just start. So today we're going to talk, this is 3 Tip Tuesday. So today we're going to talk about a few tips, and yes, I do have a script, so give me a moment as I pull it up and get it ready for what we're about to do today. You know, when I'm on the radio, I tend to have a script because that's one thing I like about radio. I can sit here, I can go for my script, I can come up with ideas that are attached to that script, so I could be reading from something that I've written or reading from something that someone else has written, and then turn around and come to some conclusions about it and talk with other people about it. So I plan to go to the next level with this and, start to get back to having guests. And I may not have it here at Studio Yo 11-8, but I may have it somewhere else where I get back into sitting down with guests and talking the nitty gritty about business, about their businesses and how they're taking it to the next level and some of the steps that they take to get their marketing, because it's all about digital media marketing. We all are out here in this field, all learning and testing. It's all being changed constantly by specifically by the people in the industry. Oh, I just noticed I had this TV on. I don't want it to do something crazy. Let's make sure it's turned off real quick. All right. That's where that blue light was coming from. I was like, where is that blue light coming from? And it wasn't really coming off of it. It kind of had a low blue hum, so it was kind of distinct. But only I could really see the difference in the lighting, and it kind of affected how I was trying to adjust the camera. But that's a whole nother story. Now I won't be looking at the camera so much from here. Yes, I am looking at the camera. Why? Because I'm recording this myself. Because the whole thing is that this is a podcast. This is not meant to be a video right off the bat. But because I am the way I am when it comes to Doc Rio TV, I tend to like to videotape when I'm in the studio doing radio. I've always liked that. That was the same thing I did at the other radio station, but usually I don't pay as much attention to the camera because it is usually behind a glass screen and I usually can't see it. I set it up, I walk away, and I get to work. So, or it's usually facing me and I can't see the screen, or even if I can see the screen, I'm looking at the person that I'm talking with because the discussion is more important to me. What we're trying to talk about, what we're talking about is more important to me, and the material that's being shared to the audience, to you, is the important part. So that's where I'm usually focused. So instead of me going on and on about this, let's get into 3 Tip Tuesday. So the 3 tips we got for today, I didn't even label this one. You got to label your pages, documents. Here's a tip, to add to 3 Tip Tuesday. Here's a side tip. When you're labeling documents, when you make your documents, make sure you always label them before you finish the document. Why? Well, it's a few reasons why, but our tips today, I'll let you know that in another episode, but our tips today have to do with 3 things, okay? 3 things that you might hear on film and television sets, or you might hear around in different environments, such as on digital media productions, or you might hear on YouTube. You might hear different people talk about these different things and might not exactly know what they mean or how they benefit you as a content creator, as a brand owner who is doing your own marketing, as a digital media marketer. This is what this is all for. If you're going to do your digital media marketing, you want to know the reasons why you have to do certain things, and people don't actually always explain them. So, or even explain some of these acronyms or labels that are out there. So I want you to know that I have some of the answers, and I'm going to tell you some of the answers. Hold on for a second. That's one good thing I like about this water bottle. It is not quiet. It's got a little nick in it. And now the air is on again, but I'm not going to do this broadcast without the air because I'm testing. I'm testing for a reason because there's a lot of things I do for testing, especially using this particular pop filter. But we'll get to that in just a second. Why? Because today we're going to talk about Shreditor, plosives, and sticks. 3 terms that you probably never even heard about. Shreditor, plosives, and sticks. Now, some of you probably have heard about 1 or 2 of these. Well, I'm going to talk about all 3 of them. Now, the first one we're going to talk about today is a Shreditor, and that is a producer, shooter, and editor. And the reason why we're talking about a Shreditor is because I think as digital media marketers today, it is important that you understand that you have to play multiple roles. You have to have different tasks. And a lot of times as a digital media marketer, you'll want to do certain things. And you'll realize that in doing those certain things, you'll have to probably wear the hat or get it done yourself. Just because of lack of any other way to get it done. So you may learn how to become an editor. You may be a producer and learn how to become an editor. You may be a producer and learn how to become a shooter. You may be a producer and learn how to become a grip, a gaffer. You probably will learn how to become a PA if you want to get involved in really producing. Or you might just sit back and just say, I'm just going to put the money in and become an executive producer or a co-producer or some kind of other producer where you don't really get involved in the actual making of it, but you're involved in the pre-production making of it, the planning of it. You know, there's a whole bunch of avenues when it comes to filmmaking, when it comes to television making, when it comes to actually making studio-worthy content. And I can't say that what I do on YouTube is studio-worthy content. I do on YouTube things that are just off the cuff a lot of times. So a lot of times you'll see me in front of my background, that I use. And sometimes I'm in the Real Bucks set, which is totally different. And we'll talk more about this mic and the next one when we talk more about plosives, because I probably have some plosives right now. But so one thing I learned about that is, look, I had a friend that I worked with a while ago, and when we talk about a Shreditor, going back to that, I don't think he wanted to accept that he had to be a Shreditor in order to be involved in this industry at the time that we were doing things. So, you know, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, maybe he had a fear. And I think he might have had a fear of editing. I'm not really sure. But one of the things that I learned, and I always thought that there was something that we had to do with ourselves when we wanted to be involved in something. We wanted to really get involved and get our hands dirty and practice it. I always learned that. That was one thing I learned from music, is practice makes perfect. So if you really want to do something, you know, getting in front of the camera or getting behind the camera, do it. Just do it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do it, because if you can't do it, then you wouldn't have a dream of being able to do it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. If you have a dream to be able to do it, then you're actually seeing yourself doing it. So you should just do it. And one day you will get to a point where you actually doing it professionally and don't even notice it. I mean, trust me, I've been there. I've done that. Got to a point I was professional, didn't even know that I made it to my dream. And then I look back, I said, I actually made my dream. What else do I want to do? There was nothing else I wanted to do at the time. And I was already a producer, shooter, editor, grip, electrician. If you look on my IMDb, you'll see a long list of actual roles and actual places that I'm credited for doing these roles. I didn't just grab these credits. I actually did the work for them. And the reason why I did the work for them is because I didn't know what I really wanted to do. And I knew producing was part of it, but I knew that there was this large scale that you had to climb to become a producer. And I just happened to be lucky enough to become an associate producer. You know, I happened to be lucky enough to be in the right places at the right time. And the only reason why I was lucky enough to be in the right places at the time is because I took jobs as a grip. I took jobs as a gaffer. I took jobs as not a gaffer. I never was really a gaffer. I have to apologize to all the gaffers out there because I've never been a cinematographer, so I never was really into the math of lights. But I've been a key grip. I've been an electrician. I've been a grip. I've been a locations manager. I'm from LA, so, you know, I mean, I actually know locations pretty damn well. I've been a producer. I've been in front of the camera. I don't even want to say how many different places I've been in front of the camera because I feel like most of the time it's either been acting and singing or acting, singing and dancing or acting with a musical instrument. It's always crazy. But, you know, I mean, I've been in so many places and done so many things when it comes to the object of having a camera around that I enjoy really being behind the camera when it comes to productions. When it comes to this, I don't mind because I'm talking to people. It's a difference when you're talking to people or talking to an audience about something versus filming something, creating art. When I create Nasu Chronicles, I don't see myself being in the film, although people have told me I should be old halal. You know, old time halal when he doesn't really do anything. But, you know, I mean, that's a whole nother story. That's not my goal with it. I have a vision for somebody else to be in those shoes. I have a vision for somebody else to direct it. I just want to get the vision out there and see how it goes. And then maybe later on I might direct an episode or two. But I have a plan for how these episodes will go, and I don't really want to let that out. But yeah, see, I can go on tangents. This is why a script is very important when it comes to me and film. But one thing I remembered about my friend is I remember when we were doing those things, I don't really think he ever really got a chance to take advantage of practicing. Practicing to make perfect is something that you really got to get out there and do. I don't think he was a producer and he had a camera and he had a Mac editing system at his disposal all at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if he wanted to. And I don't think he really ever took advantage of using it to really dig into it. And I think that's the fear. We feel like we're going to break something or we feel like we're going to damage something if we use it, but we got to get out there and use it. And the more we use it, the more we learn that we can't really damage it, especially when we talk about most of these name brand products like Canon, Sony. When you talk about cameras or Sennheiser or MXL or Rode, or, you know, when you talk about microphones, even though I didn't really like that Rode mic to go, it broke on my camera in the field. So I'm messing with a Movo right now, but I'm gonna check that other one that's about the same size as Movo later. But yeah, I mean, and you'll see the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're catching the replay on YouTube, the live replay on YouTube, you'll see that in the description below. But anyway, I don't think he ever really took advantage of using the tools, and I'm a user. I don't want to mean like in people, but when it comes to tools, I like to, if I'm going to buy something, why am I not going to use it? Why am I not going to hold it in my hand and learn exactly how it works? You know, I might not get it down to the nitty gritty all times, but I'm always learning something new on every single tool that I have, especially things like that. This arm, I don't like this arm because it drops. You see that, folks? See, this arm actually dropped out of the range that it was in. It'll gradually drop again, and I'll have to fix it again, and that's why I'm going to get a Rode arm. I think it's a PS1 or something. But anyway, Using the tools, you learn their quirks and you learn what their problems are. Maybe I should take this off. Maybe that will help relieve some of the weight. Oh, I got this clip on there in the first place. It's not holding anything. But, you know, plus it might have been in the way of the shot here somewhere. You know, it's probably just in the shot. But he had it all in his hands, and I feel like he was afraid to use it himself. And as an entrepreneur, I feel like we must learn to use every tool at our disposal. We must learn to put things together that we're supposed to put together and be a part of the things that we are putting our hands into, putting our money into, putting our faith into. If you're not being a part of something you're putting your faith into, even a executive producer has a say-so in when they put their money into what they really want to see on that screen. A co-producer, you know, if you're a grip, you're putting in the context of what you know by your skills that light may not be bouncing off that person that way. So I might need a flag to go up right a finger. I might just need a finger. A finger flag is a thin boxy like flag that sticks out like a finger. Like I just put my hand. See, that's one thing. I put my hand in front of my own lighting. It's one thing that I should know as a person in front of the camera. I probably shouldn't put my hand right in front of my own lighting, especially when I'm pumping down a little hard light to give me a better lighting than I usually would at this angle. I'm pumping out hard diffuse light. So, you know, there are little things that you got to learn and play with. But, you know, a finger is like a strip. They have different types of fingers, but they have fingers that you can actually grate through and disperse the light that looks like a mesh. And then they have fingers that are straight, you know, that block the whole light. And you can put them up at certain angles. And you see that reflection behind my head right there? If I had a finger right now, I can put it up at the right angle and it will knock that little reflection right off of that. That little reflection is from the light right here, the bright key light I have right here. You see what I mean? So there's certain things that I know that I am able to do because I have the experience of being in all these positions, but yet and still I may not do them for YouTube. Why? Because YouTube is a different animal. I mean, I see it's getting more professional in its later days, but you know, I mean, it is a different animal for me, and usually it's a one-on-one conversation, so I don't really have to have all those refined minutes and moments. And that's what I mean for your digital media marketing. Today, because we're talking about social media marketing, not everything needs to be refined. When I talk about social media, of course, it's digital media. That's everything from your website to your social media to everything. But when we're talking about social media, not everything is refined on social media marketing. And that's where you're going to draw a lot more interest until you get them to your more of your YouTube, your finer YouTube content that you're going to put on there. It's going to be longer visuals for them to get them through those screens. And not just that, you're going to want to market with finer content gradually as you grow as an individual. And you're going to want to do things at a lot different rate. But as we know, I tend to talk a little long. So let us pause this video real quick and get to the next step, because I don't have it plugged in and I'm filming this myself. So I'll be right back. And we're going to keep talking about the Shreditor. All right, now we're back talking about the Shreditor. And I just made sure I paid attention to the recording time. The reason why I had to make sure of the recording time is because I am using the 80D camera, and the 80D camera has a 59 minute shut off rate so that it can remain a semi-professional camera instead of a professional camera. And that is something the company did so that they can sell it in the United States. It's a United States thing, actually. I don't even know why, because, you know, I don't know why that's got to be a rating. You know, we like to tax people. And right now, Trump, you know, well, I'm not going into that. Anyway, I was wearing what was I wearing? 5 or more. Oh, yeah, hats. We'll get back to being a Shreditor. You have to wear several hats, all right? And back to wearing those several hats and being a Shreditor being a producer, shooter, editor. That meant I had to get the idea together. I had to be a part of shooting the idea, and I did this a lot with Universal Music, and I did this a lot with NBC Universal, or Warner Brothers as well, Warner Brothers Online. We were part of the shooting, production. Then we have to turn around and flip hats and be part of the post-production. And then we have to be part of probably the marketing. So you're constantly being a part of your projects, and that's being a producer in my book. If you want to be a producer, you need to be somewhere involved more than you think. You should be a producer and a post-production producer of your projects in these days until you can get in a spot where you can be either a supervising post-production producer or you can be a creator producer on a big major production. Then you don't have to, because you take a slot. You know, you fill a slot in a job and a task, all right? But if you're an independent producer, if you're a digital media marketer, you should be wearing all those hats. All those hats should be wearing around. And as you're learning how to do those hats, you should be ready to wear more than 5. I wore 5 or more back in those days. Let me see it. I was a Shreditor, which is 3, and then I was a DP, a grip electrician, a location scout, a composer, and sometimes I'd have to act and play out in some live music, or I have to act and play out in something, you know, because that's the characters. I told you I was an actor, singer, dancer, or something in one of them, or a musician with a whole bunch of instruments. I don't even want to go into that one. But that's just what a Shreditor is. Now, the second tip today, which I've given you a lot of tips in Shreditor. I've given you all a whole bunch of tips in Shreditor now that I think about it, because I just start talking about things that are involved. And I'm not even watching out for them myself. As I said the word talk, you heard that? That pop right there. I'm going to leave that one in for you all. But the rest of them I'm going to be attempting to take out and minimize. But I might forget and minimize this one, that one too. But what that does is when you hit certain letters, there's a pop sound, and we call them plosives. That's tip number 2. Tip number 2 is plosives, that pop sound that sounds from a speaker's breath like mine. Basically, it happens in English speaking when we say a P, B, D, T, K, S, or a C, and sometimes a F, H, Q, V, W, and Z. See, I'm moving around to avoid plosives, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And I don't know why the focus just racked up to the wall up there. Maybe because my head got stashed behind this pop filter, which is one of the things I don't like about pop filters. But when we speak certain letters, the air is pushed out of our mouth, and it goes through the diaphragm of the microphone. Now, the diaphragm of the microphone is that piece inside the microphone that picks up the vibrations of our sound and translates it into an electrical signal and sends it back through an amplifier or a whatever you're sending it into and to record it, or a computer to record it. So you're actually not in analog recording. You're actually hearing your voice being converted into an electrical signal and then retransposed back into an audio. Even worse in digital, it is converted into a digital signal and then chopped up, cut off with box corners, so you don't get the full analog layered sound. So some of your signal is cut off, some of your ranges, which mostly those ranges aren't really heard by the human ear, but they do allow certain things to ring down when you talk about music. When you talk about like in orchestral compositions, there are certain sounds that may not hear from the ear, but that'll ring up, but ring back down into the music. But if it's already cut out before, it comes in choppy and jagged with that. So, you know, that's just my point of view. Other audio editors will tell you, you don't even understand that or hear that anyway. But I hear certain things, and I know that when I do this stuff on YouTube, I let a lot of that slide. I've gotten to the point where I'm able to stab myself in the heart about sound. It's hard to do because sound is so integral when it comes to what we do. And plosives tend to annoy your listener. So when we speak some of those letters, sometimes it comes out as a harsh pop or like an explosive rumble. That's why it's called plosive. They just took the word X off of it. Anyway, it's like explosive, plosive. That's why I always forget it, because I have to think about the word explosive before. And I know the word, I've known the word for years, but I just, pop filter. A plosive filter is what it really, see what I mean? A plosive filter is what it really is. And so an experienced broadcaster tends to turn their head a little bit when they start to say those words. But, you know, sometimes I'm experienced, sometimes I'm inexperienced, and this thing keeps floating down just little by little. So my mic moves from its position. So where I would usually turn my mouth and actually say it ends up popping in the mouth, as you saw there. So as it goes down, I start leaning down, and so when I turn, my turn doesn't feel the same anymore. And so my skill or talent to be able to avoid those plosives gets, deterred. So, but anyway, where's my experience from? I was a program director at a radio station, at a couple of small ones, but also I worked at a college one. It's a student position, be honest with everyone out there, but we were able to take our radio station from 5,000 listeners up to 25,000 listeners in less than a year with the team that we had. And that's just not a credit to me. That's a credit to that whole team. You know, at the time, I was just an assistant program director when we started that mission. And then I became program director, and we continued that mission. But we had people like Matt Gottesman. We had people like Nick, why am I forgetting Nick's last name? We had program directors. If you go to kpcradio.com and you look at the about us, there is a history I put up there, and I wanted to make sure that all of our program directors had this kind of feel that, hold on, let me get that focus back. All right, had this kind of feel where we had this area where program directors were listed. Former program directors were listed because they're executive producers. They are advisors. You know what I mean? Nick McNamara. That's his last name. It just popped in my head. And, I talked with several of the former program directors on there, and some people have come to me as before, when I was there. Actually, I stayed there and stayed on as an acting executive producer for one semester to try to be an advisor and to try to just be around for the team. But yeah, I mean, we are all one community of people who were broadcasters. And through that experience, I know that I'm sacrificing some of this YouTube quality when I'm on YouTube. In low budget productions, we kind of have to work with what we got at the studio at kpcradio.com and the other studios, which I won't mention their names because I haven't had permission yet. So at the other two studios, they actually allowed us to use certain equipment. The equipment that they had there and kpcradio.com was more beneficial for broadcasters. And I'm using, as you see, the stand I'm using is not the right one, but we use road stands. We had tables set up. We had a booth. We had a engineer booth versus a sound booth. Padded walls. My walls aren't padded properly. I'm using all this stuff on the walls to kind of give us some of that diffusion, but there's still an echo. There's a glass window right here. So there's still an echo from that glass window that bounces around the room. Unless I'm on this mic, this MXL BCD-1 actually is dynamic. So it actually takes up a different sound tone, and it only picks up pretty much what's near the mic, and everything else gets kind of silenced. That's why I'm having a hard time with it, because of this stand. When the stand goes too low and I have to tweak myself and have to turn, and there we go. There's the sound I'm supposed to be at. And you'll probably feel the difference, or I will probably adjust the difference in the edit because that's just the way I am. But there's not even a mic on the camera back there. I didn't even put the mic back on the camera after shooting yesterday. So, but when you're using like a YouTube and you're using when I started my YouTube, this YouTube channel, you can look at the first video. It's called Walk with Your Boy. And it was a video in my apartment. I was always around artists, and I never really had had a camera when I was getting surgery and stuff and getting my leg back together and getting back to walking again, but I never really had a camera. And I had a laptop, a MacBook Pro, and I just opened that MacBook Pro while he was starting to go off to the beat, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna film this and put this on YouTube. And that video, it got a lot of views for our time frame, but that video kind of launched in the hot box, which was all about the LA hot box. It's hot out here, you know, from LA to the Valley to Orange County to all of LA County, just really gets hot. And so I called it the hot box, but people got silly with it, and then people started stealing the name because I used to have hotbox.com. I used to have all kind of stuff. So anyway, I gave up stuff. I just, you know, I didn't want to be associated with an idea that was partially legal at the time. And I just wanted to talk about LA and what we have to offer here that people don't see, because all they hear is about Hollywood, but there's so much talent all around this community, from business talent to branding talent to musical talent to dancing talent to acting talent to singing talent to, it's just, the list can go on and on and on. LA is full of talent. Why? Because even the Hollywood industry needs support from every other industry. So when people think about Hollywood, oh, I'm coming to Hollywood to be an actor, but you should probably think about Hollywood to try the plethora of jobs of all industries that you can probably get a job in, probably even in your own field first. And then do that while you're here and figure out how to become a better actor. You know, I know a lot of people that think they can come to LA and just, I've said this before, think they can come to LA and just become a star. Yeah, you can after 20 years of work, 18 years of work, and then you come to LA and then all of a sudden, yeah, you got your shot. But if you haven't been doing the work, if you haven't been putting in the effort, if you haven't been looking at the tools, then you won't get your shot so soon. Now, even though I did start my YouTube channel with a MacBook Pro, and in the studio, I utilized different things that were like techniques. What they did was I call it mitigating these disruptors, because plosives are disruptors. They're disruptors to the ear, and they're disruptors to the mind. And I've tested several different adjustments. That was one other thing that I did. I sat down and I tested how I should do it. I used to put it under, but some people's voices roll down, and I've worked with people who had loud mouths, and I worked with people who had low talking mouths. And, you know, I mean, even me, I have to adjust the gain up on this microphone just a little bit more. Hey, there we go. That's a little bit better. Just a little bit more to get what I'm supposed to get from this microphone. But at the same time, when I try to adjust the gain up on certain people's microphones, I know that they were too loud for it. I know some people, I could turn the gain almost all the way up and practically hear the noise and sound of the fluorescent lights in the room, which were shielded so they wouldn't make so much sound. All right. And they still weren't loud enough in their microphones. And some people, you can put the microphone really close to their face, and other people, you have to put it really far from their face. I tried every single type of technique known to man to get those shields with pop filters in the right place. Because remember, I'm talking about using professional equipment. And so I learned a lot of different techniques, but even with myself, I have to move it around constantly. I have to move myself around constantly so that I don't do too many plosives, you know, because even that S or that T that I just said earlier has to come out without popping the filter. You see what I mean? So there's a certain way that I actually talk on the mic that you can actually see me on the screen. And that's my whole purpose, to talk where you can actually see me on the screen. You can see me talking, but you can see also the mic that I'm talking into without popping the plosives. And also this screen right here has the audio track playing at the same time that we're looking while I'm looking at my script on my iPad. So that's why you see me looking over in this direction. And that's kind of why I like actually playing to the camera in this direction when I am doing radio. Plus, I'm at that proper point when it comes to filming for the screen. Because of the way I'm sitting, I'm at the upper thirds, but at that crisscross. One of my eyeballs is probably floating in and out that perfect point for camera shooting. even though sometimes I got to remember not to look at that screen, but to look at that screen right there. So that's part of the issue right there. But that's only if you can see my eyes. And most people say that they have issues still seeing my eyes through my prescription glasses. So unfortunately, I have to have this tint to have any of this light shining on my face. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to see a thing. So I hope that doesn't bug anybody out there. Also, other times when we go back to that, I've had to sit down with guests as well sometimes to help them control their breathing. And the reason why I'm talking about this is important because I want to talk a little bit about the pop filter itself. And the reason why is because I've sat down with people who have been either they mouth breathe like sometimes I do because I'm congested. As you can almost hear that I can only hardly get half of a full breath. Half of the time I'm congested in one nostril. And that didn't happen until I went to the South. And so that's kind of weird that a better natural environment was worse on my sinuses than a smog-filled environment of LA. So that was a little bit strange for me. But also, I sat down with people who have these issues. I've sat down with people who also have the issue of when they get in front of a microphone or when they sit before an audience, they get so nervous that they breathe so fast that they start sweating and they can't control their breathing. So getting someone to take a deep breath or getting someone to sit down and calm down and relax and maybe laugh a little bit and playful before I got them on the microphone. Like I'd have the host on the other side of the booth and I'd be the engineer and I'd pull up my microphone and start talking with them and start joking with them and saying all kind of stuff and maybe play a little music to spark up their attention, but to get their actual interviewee or their guest relaxed so that they don't use more plosives. Some people have other plosives, like there's that essing sound. Every single time I say this song, some people have a sound when they do it. And that whistling sound is something that can be a little bit mitigated, but that actually may take a little bit more work in the long run. A pop filter may not be enough, but that's a plosive as well. It's a sound that's somewhat more annoying. And so what I do is I position the mic differently. But also, with that being said, just know that nerves can be a reason why there are many plosives in your audio. So I tell people to remember to take a deep breath before they speak, and it reduces the plosive that they may create. So since I'm one of those loud talkers, I came up with a few studio solutions, like I said before. The first of all, of course, has to do with the kind of pop filter. Now, I use a newer one. It's a double screen, so it's got a twist screen, but I can actually still feel, when I talk towards the mic, I can still feel air coming through the filter. And so that means that there might be a moment of pop in the filter. And let me get some water real quick because I heard my mouth crackling. When you hear that in the microphone, you know that you are either thirsty or you just had a little bit of water. So that's another little tip there. But I use a newer one. This newer one, I'm going to put the link in the description, but that's for people who are watching the live replay. If you're watching this in Facebook Live, then it's just going to be live for now, and then you can check on YouTube to get the links in the description. I apologize for that. I should probably, I might even try to put them down in the talk later after it's live, but it's just easier just to broadcast live for you all. Also, if you are looking for a pop filter that doesn't necessarily let the air through it the same way, I recommend, this is one that I'm going to get. I've just been putting off getting it because I'm being cheap, trying to stay at the level that most of my viewers will probably be at when it comes to certain tools. Most of my viewers, I have some of these tools, but not all of them. And I'm not here to make you spend money when it comes to these tips. So don't use, I tell people because I tried it, it doesn't really work. Don't use a strainer, any type of strainer for food or anything, kitchen strainer. I wouldn't recommend it. I tried using that and it doesn't really do anything. I thought the pop filter I'm about to mention, the Stedman Proscreen PS101 metal pop filter, I thought that it had that same kind of feel. It also looked dangerous because I tend to hit the microphone here and there. And so I like this little plastic edge, even though I don't like having to look around it sometimes. But I like the plastic edge because I fear that I'm going to cut my fingers. But I did try the Stedman and I didn't cut my fingers on it. I've tried it before. I've used it before. One thing I noticed about it is I love the way it works. It's got this like formation. I want to say, let me see if I can read it. Shape is better. In the filter, in the mesh of itself, if you look at a flat filter, it's got holes in it, right? And so you think when you look at it, it's got these holes in it that are big and that the air is still going to come through. But because of the shape of it, it's got like this triangular shape of these holes. And then it's got these beveled edges. The beveled edges actually allow the wind with it to flow straight down. So when I put my hand in front of this filter right here and I talk, I can still feel some of the wind coming through. But with the Stedman, I put my hand down here and that's where the wind is. I put it up here, I don't feel any wind. I put it down here, I feel the wind. So what it does is it redirects the wind so that it's not hitting the diaphragm, which, like I said, is that part that feels the electrical vibrations. And if it gets hit too hard, it'll vibrate too hard and it makes that plosive sound. So you don't want that plosive sound. If you want to talk directly into your mic, you get that Stedman Proscreen PS101. That thing is a ticket. It is a little bit more pricey, but I'll put the link in the description below so you'll get that as well in the link if you're watching this replay on YouTube. Also, next, I think that's it for that one. Yeah. Let's talk about the third tip. The third tip for today, and these are long, and I'm at 42. I told you I like to do an hour when it comes to this, is the sticks. All right, the sticks are, people don't know what sticks are. People hear that every once in a while when it pops up, but sticks, it's just another name for tripod. I love that name. I've known that name for quite a while because I grew up with real sticks, using real sticks, and that's, you know, even when we did when I was at elementary school, we got a chance to use a news camera, a real videotape camera, I would say. It would be a news size camera, but it was the old school videotape camera that you can use for film. It was a VHS. It was one of the first. I think it was beta at the time. And we got a chance to use that. Steve Early brought it into the classroom. And I believe those sticks, he called them sticks. And so that was the name that I used them for. And I believe they were still wood. I don't really remember, but I remember them being called sticks back then. So, and it was a tripod. So, you know what I mean? So, film tripods were still made of wood back in the day. And so that is the reason why they called them sticks, is because wood was sturdier and firmer than the metal that they tried to use. If you notice, a lot of the metal is it vibrates a little bit more, but if you're using a film camera, you're gonna wanna put them on sticks, solid sticks. Even if they're metal ones, they need to be solid so that they hold that camera. And, you know, the best ones were the wood old-fashioned sticks. Today, many film cinematographers, grips, gaffers, electricians still use the term on set. So be aware of that. And if you know that, if you hear it on YouTube videos, that's what they're talking about. I'm pointing up because my 55 inches right up there, so I'm just looking at it. I always look at that TCL, and I do recommend that television, by the way. It's not the best quality as fuck it as I wasn't saying the word F as far as visual as it goes, but it came out like I did, didn't it? As far as visual quality, that's what I was gonna say. But it's got a basic HD quality, but it's kind of got this lighter haze to it. And maybe that's just a reflection behind, but I feel like it still has the little filter on it, which I know I removed that. So I'll double check that though. That's a good idea to double check that. But notice that before I didn't say any DP. When I said film cinematographers, grip gaffers, electricians, and others still use the term. Directors still use the term. I didn't say DP because a DP is for digital filmmaking. And the reason why I say that is because they're not really cinematographers. Cinematographer is a specialty skill. And furthermore, a director of photography on a film production is almost always a cinematographer first. So that's why ASC is the Association American Society of Cinematographers. I almost messed that up. American Society of Cinematographers. And I only know this because I've spent a lot of time learning from folks from who are ASC qualified. This is the technical realm where they really get down into the aspects of film to the math. And it was so technical that I've been close enough to actually get selected, but I don't think I'm technologically skilled enough to really be a real cinematographer, even though I have the shirt. You see, I hardly wear that SMPTE shirt. Anyway, and that's because I'm a SMPTE member and I have much respect for cinematographers and what they do and what they can do. And most of those, most of the digital DPs, there are a lot of digital DPs out there, and they do know their gear, and some of them are cinematographers. But if you're a digital DP, you're generally speaking a digital DP, and I'm a digital DP. So I am pretty skilled, but I'm still a digital DP. I take shortcuts sometimes, as you know, on YouTube. I'll use those short sticks sometimes as well. I use a term when I use my Manfrotto tripod, my 055, or like I just said, my Manfrotto tripod 055. Sometimes I call out the brand name. Sometimes I'll call out the model number, depending on which sticks I'm using. I might call out the Manfrotto monopod. I might just say the monopod, instead of sticks that day. I might call the monopod sticks if that's our only set of sticks for the day. You see what I mean? I might call it bring out the stick. It's just one of those things because I'm used to hearing it called that way. So that's 3 Tip Tuesday for today. I hope you like our 3 tips. And what were the 3 tips? Again, Shreditor, Plosives, and last but not least, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. What is it? Sticks. I haven't even got to it. Shreditor, Plosives, and sticks. That's it for Doc Rio TV today. And stay tuned. Stay tuned for this video. If you haven't heard it online yet, if you get the audio, because you might get the audio today, but if you haven't heard it on YouTube yet, stay tuned for it on YouTube so you can get a visual if you like the visual. And if you're in the Facebook live group, I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you listening out. I appreciate you taking the terms and enjoying this 3 Tip Tuesday. For now, stay tuned for the Doc Rio Roll. I'm out of here. Peace. There it is. If you need to reach us on Facebook, it's at doc.rio, yeah. On Twitter at Doc Rio Rants. On Instagram, the picture way. And every time I come, I'm here to stay. Snapping photos and get it right. It's at Doc Rio tonight. Say, on YouTube, you can't stop. By Doc Rio TV. That's where you see me. That's where you see me. Hit us up on Rio Bucks. Peace. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. Doc Rio TV.